Hello, this is Overlord Bo, back with another information video with SAT score, and today we're going to be going over the best ships for credit grinding in 2025. So before we get started with the list, I'm going to explain a little bit on why we picked the particular ships that we did. So we're going to be picking only from tier 8 and tier 9 ships that are available in World of Warships, and the reason why I'm going to be explaining here. So as you can see right here on one of our examples for the day is going to be the Jager. So Jager gets enhanced credit earnings since it is a tier 9 premium ship, and it also gets a reduced service cost, which means that it's cheaper to run while earning more. And this goes for every tier 9 and below premium ship. If you go to tier 10, you only get the reduced service cost. So the sweet spot for best credit grinders are going to be tier 9 and tier 8, where they get the most XP beneficial to earn more credits. And now all the ships that we've selected today are both they're good in both PvP and PvE modes. So if you only play PvE or only PvP, all these ships are really good for all of them. So before we go into the list, I just wanted to explain that. So starting us off, the first ship is going to be the legendary Jager. The Jager you can get for both coal and doubloons. Luckily enough, in a few days after this video goes out, the price of the Jager is going down. So yeah, you just have to wait a few more days and the price goes down. So thumbs up to Wargaming for that. So really nice in that. Jager is one of the best torpedo boats in World of Warships, with having a 5.4 kilometer concealment, and has a very large arsenal of 12 torpedoes that are pretty much homing missiles. This thing has a 90 knot torp speed for them, really quick, but they don't have a lot of damage. So they're very quick, and they also have a very fast reload, which makes them they just keep pecking at you forever, and they'll get you sooner or later. Some of the downside of the ship is it doesn't have like any guns at all, so you're mainly focused on your concealment, your speed, and your torpedoes to do the carrying of the ship. You do get an engine boost and a heal, which is really nice, and if you have Swirsky, you can get your reload down on the torpedoes for every 8 torpedoes you hit, which isn't hard with how many torpedoes you're throwing out. And that's going to be our first suggestion, and I'll let SAT score talk about it a little bit on why we suggested it.
So, of the destroyers, it is one of the easiest to play at tier 9, because you're mostly concentrated on spotting and landing torps. And the longer you survive, the more damage you can do. And you're not overcomplicating things like shooting your guns, well, at least most of the time. And especially since it's not uncommon to face tier 10s and tier 11s, like these are bulkier ships that are less maneuverable, so it's even easier for you to land torpedoes. So because of that, and of course you can get the unique captain that makes the Jager spit even more torpedoes. So considering all of that, Jager is a ship that does pretty well at tier 9. Relatively easy playstyle, and even does fine when slotting into tier 10 or tier 11 matchmaking. So if you want a pretty good consistent credit farmer, Jager is a great option for destroyers.
Thank you for that, SAT. Now, if you're not as much of a torpedo boat enjoyer and you prefer something with a little bit more guns, well, I got a suggestion right for you. Our number 2 is going to be the Groningen. My personal favorite credit grinder in World of Warships when I decide to credit grind, it is going to be the Groningen. This bad boy got itself a 420 millimeter guns with a 1.2 reload. This thing is just a DACA machine. It has forward-facing hedgehogs, which are pretty hilarious. Has very strong anti-air. Maneuverability is also nice with a 6.4 kilometer concealment. What makes this ship so great, it has over a 2-minute long smoke, as well as having a 5 kilometer hydro and DFA. So it's very good for sitting in smoke and farming, and hydro. If something tries to torp you, you're going to be able to see it coming. And if something is dumb enough to walk into your hydro while you're farming and smoke, you're able just to kill it and move on with your day. DFA is really nice against aircraft carriers since the thing does have a 6 kilometer range, so it's pretty nice in that regard as well. You can get the Groningen in the armory for coal and doubloons. Up to you on either or, and the price is going down in a few days from this video, so awesome with that. Survivability is at 20,000 HP. Doesn't have the most HP for a tier 9 destroyer, but that's okay. One of the main downsides of this ship is the fact it does not have torpedoes. So a lot of battleship players or cruiser players, when they see you starting to farm and smoke, they may just decide just to W at you, since they know your only defense is your guns, and they're not be worried about torpedoes since you don't have any except for yourself. So overall, really good gunboat. This ship does really well in PvE and PvE for farming and credit grinding or commander grinding or whatever you want to do. And same with the Jager. It does that really well on both PvE and PvE. But overall, Groningen's one of my top credit grinding ships in World of Warships. It's just so much fun to play. I just love the ship overall. I build it more as like a part of a destroyer hunter, but you can build it mostly just for farming or in between, but it's up to you. But what are your thoughts on the Groningen SAT?
So yeah, as you said, complete opposite of the Jaeger. Instead of spamming out torps, you're spamming out guns. So you just find a nice place to farm, use your US smoke, put on hydro so you don't accidentally get torped yourself, and then just left click for 2 minutes. And while you're doing that, you are lighting a ton of fires, you are lighting, you're doing damage to superstructure, and you're making people's days very unhappy. You do have to be more careful on the Groningen though. You don't really have you don't really have the maneuverability to dodge as well. So, and you kind of want to find a good spot where you put your smoke. The shells are also a little bit on the floaty side, so it does require some aim on your part. But if you can look past all of that, then the DPM from both your HE and your fires is kind of crazy and consistent as well.
Yeah.
And of course, not only can you use the Hydro defensively, but you can also sometimes get in, use Hydro, and surprise a destroyer for an easy kill. So if you like guns a lot more than torpedoes, then Groningen's a really good option.
Yep, thank you for that SAT. Moving on to our third option, it is going to be another destroyer. It is going to be the legendary Cossack. Cossack, a very old premium in World of Warships, is a legendary tier 8 destroyer, and this thing is just a behemoth of a destroyer. It having 8 120mm guns with a 5-second reload, this thing will just tear apart any destroyer it fights at tier 8. We also get the British short burst smoke, which is really nice to be able to disengage or engage into the enemy. Same, it has an engine boost as well with a British 3-kilometer hydro that has about a 3-minute duration. Overall, this ship is very maneuverable with acceleration. Being a British destroyer, it gets a really fast acceleration with 37.8 knot top speed and goes about to 40 something with the engine boost. Concealment is also very strong on this ship with a 5.5 kilometer concealment. So it's a great gunboat destroyer for hunting of destroyers. And with that concealment, it just makes you like a predator is hunting its prey. Them not being able to spot you, but you're able to spot them, and by the time they spot you, it's too late, and you're just gunning them down and killing them. That's a lot of the positives of the ship. One of the downsides is anti-air is the best, since it is a tier 8 destroyer. You don't have any anti-air, so good luck with that. You do get 1 rack of torpedoes, which go to 10-kilometer range and have a okay-ish reload, but you only get 4. You can single fire them, which is nice. So there's a battleship rushing you. You can single fire them and do a lot of damage. But other than that, you're relying mostly on your guns, your wit, and your quick short burst smoke to get you out of situations. You can get this ship for doubloons in the armory. It is going up in price in a few days from the patch that's coming up. So make sure you get it before then. If not, it's going to cost you about 11,000 doubloons. But what are your quick thoughts on the Cossack SAT?
If you want one of the best ranked destroyers, Cossack is a great option. You have amazing spotting, you have a self-defense hydra, so no accidental torpedoes, and you gun down other destroyers no problem. And once you're doing that, you still have some pretty good firepower to burn down battleships or secondary ships that are going to YOLO towards you.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, the torpedoes are definitely a liability. You you can get some funny single fire torps every once in a while, but just the lack of volume does make it hard to reliably stop pushes. And if sometimes the more maneuverable ships are also hard to deal with your floaty guns. But that's fine. Your concealment's great. You just kill the destroyer, you take the caps, and you hope your teammates don't all throw their ships away. But that's like the problem with every ranked ship anyways. Randoms, of course, Cossack is still great because you still have great spotting. You can stand your ground against tier 9 and tier 10 destroyers just because of your concealment. You also still got your smoke, your self-defense hydro. It's still a really good destroyer to up tiers well. So if you want a good destroyer that can outspot and gun down destroyers, then yeah, Cossack is a solid option.
Yep, it is for sure. So moving on from the Cossack, we're going to be talking about the Key, a very old premium in World of Warships. A lot of you guys may remember this, but if you're new here, let me do a little bit of details on the Key. So the Key is a premium of the Amagi. It has 10 410 millimeter guns. Armor is pretty decent on with 32 millimeter bow and aft. The 32 millimeter deck isn't the best against HE spammers because they can pin that and do a lot of damage. Superstructure 19 millimeters. But overall, the ship is a very strong gun platform. Very good at mid to long range engagements. Does very well at PvE and PvE alike. The ship does come with a standard heal in a spotter, plane, or fighter, so up to you in that regard. It also comes with torpedoes, funny enough. You do get a little bit of a meme set of torpedoes on the rear side there, so if someone tries to drive by you or you're cutting away, you can do a lot of damage with those torpedoes. They are the Japanese torpedoes, so they are very hard hitting. But overall, though, it's a really good ship. Makes a lot of credits. It is a tier 8. You can get it for coal and doubloons, so you can get it for both. It is going down in price coming up, so you can get it for that for either coal or doubloons, depending upon your fancy. Some of the downsides, though, maneuverability it's, you know what, the maneuverability is fine for a tier 8. It's about average. 31 knots is pretty good for a tier 8. Concealment is not the best for a tier 8 battleship, but you know, it is what it is. Other than that, its armor isn't the best, but it does its job. Like, it's okay. It's good. It's good for the tier. It's a tier 8, so it's not going to be god tier, but it's still pretty good. But overall, really good credit grinder. Is a good mid to long range battleship. Good for farming both AP and HE on targets. Up to you. If you're in like a high tier match, like tier 9 or tier 10, focus more potentially on HE, and you'll do great in those matches at farther distance. But what are your thoughts on the Key SAT score?
So the main reason why she's here in this list is because she's a coal ship. Previously, she was a doubloon ship, but since the change, I think turning her into a coal ship makes her a lot more affordable since you don't actually have to spend money.
Yep.
Otherwise, she's a pretty solid, kind of an Amagi side grade. You get very similar guns, the armor is a little bit worse, and you get torpedoes. But otherwise, you play essentially the same as the Amagi.
Mm-hmm.
And the Amagi herself is a pretty solid battleship. By being a tier 8 battleship, Key is also like relatively easy to play too. You don't need to learn anything too special other than please don't show broadside to a Vermont.
Yeah, you'll get dev struck if you do that. So yeah, don't do that.
So yeah, relative ease of play, pretty consistent performance. The fact that you can get it for coal now is why I think Key is a really good pick right now if you want a consistent credit farmer.
Mm-hmm.
And as a side note, for PvE, those torps are actually a little bit more handy. And you can even make use of your secondaries a little bit if you build specifically for PvE.
Yep, for sure. So the next ship is going to be our honorable mention. It is going to be the Atago. Atago is one of the oldest premiums in World of Warships, and still is very decent to this day in PvP and PvE game modes. You can get this ship for doubloons, so if you want to buy it, you can. It has 10 203 millimeter guns that pack a punch with both HE and AP. The ship excels at mid to long range HE and AP farming, AP on more like closer ranges on battleships and cruisers, aiming at the upper decks on the battles with the AP or on the citadels for cruisers. It does have 16 torpedoes, by the way, that have a 10-kilometer range. So if anything is within that range and you happen to decide to just rush at them, they're not going to live, but you probably aren't going to live either. But those torpedoes do pack a punch. They, yeah, very, very deadly. Maneuverability of the ship is pretty fast for a tier 8 cruiser. It does have an option of having Hydro or DFAA, a fighter, and a heal, which is all very good for a tier 8 cruiser. Concealment is also very decent, being one of the stealthiest tier 8 cruisers in World of Warships. Let me pull up a build for it real quick. Let me see. With concealment, it goes down to... I have the wrong build. Where is build? It goes down to 9.3 kilometers when it's built into concealment, which is very, very, very stealthy for a tier 8 cruiser, which makes it you're able to stay dark, use your torpedoes if you like, or you can farm, and if you need to disengage, it's really easy. So very easy to play, great for PvE and PvE modes, good for operations and all of that. So that is here going to be in my honorable, not my honorable, yeah, it's here for the honorable mention. And SATs, it will explain why it's in the honorable mentions and not in the actual list.
So Atako has always been a solid cruiser, but I think she doesn't make this list as much just because she still costs doubloons. She's not a coal option unlike the Key, and I feel like Cossack has more impact overall compared to the Atako. She's also a bit on the harder side to play as well, having limited range. You do get a heal, but that limited range, along with the temptation to use torpedoes sometimes, really gets you into trouble.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, she's still a pretty good ship. If you, her vices aren't really that bad, but I just feel like Cossack outclasses her in terms of performance, especially in ranked. And Key is just better because she's a coal ship and she's a lot more forgiving to play.
Yep, for sure. So the final ship that is going to be on this list, also make sure you guys write down what your favorite credit grinding ships are. It can be anything that you personally like grinding credits on, or Commander XP or free XP. All the ships that you've listed today are also really good at grinding Commander XP and free XP. We're just focusing more on credit grinding. But overall, all these premium ships are really good at doing all of that. So moving on, the final ship is going to be the Pommern, one of the original premium brawlers for World of Warships back in the day, it being tier 9. You can get the ship for coal and doubloons, which is why it's on this list. You can get it for free, or if you want to buy it with doubloons, you can. The ship is also going down. Is it going down in price? This ship should be going down in price. Yeah. So it's also going down in price in a few days. So if you want to get it, you can also wait until after that, and then you can get it for a nice cheaper price and use a coupon too while you're at it. The ship has very decent armor, 32 millimeters on the top, and then 60, and then a 150. It is a very, very tanky battleship. Very tanky. It has 12 380 millimeter guns, but what really makes this ship shine are those secondaries. These secondaries, which you're going to be building into IFHE, so you get those 32 millimeter pen for those HE rounds, will melt literally anything. It doesn't matter if it's a battleship, cruiser, DD, it don't matter. Those secondaries with that 12-kilometer range is going to absolutely melt it, and it's going to be so much fun for you to do that. The ship also gets 8 torpedoes, 2 on each side, with a 6-kilometer range as well. So if you happen to do a drive-by, you're able to finish them off with those torpedoes or the main guns, whatever way you want to humiliate the enemy. The ship does get 10-kilometer ASW, which is really nice. Anti-air is German, so it's okay. Maneuverability is 31 knots, which is good for a tier 9 battleship. And concealment, yeah, you're German. You're going to be spotted from space. The ship comes with a decent battleship heal with a 6 kilometer hydro and a 4 kilometer spotting for the torpedoes when you have this active. So that hydro is very useful when you're sitting mid range, or if you're pushing in, trying to spot torpedoes or submarines or enemies that are sitting in smoke. It's just a very good offensive tool as well as a defensive tool, which makes it very unique. It makes the ship very strong in pretty much every PvP game mode except for randoms. In randoms, it suffers in the longer range meta, but in any game mode that calls for close action, like ranked, brawls, unbreakable line, operations, or anything of that nature, yeah, this ship is going to excel at it and it's going to love it. You're going to make bank while playing this ship, and that is why it is the final ship on this entry, because it is just the best all-around credit grinder for the battleships that we picked. It is just overall a lot of fun to play. Overall makes tons of commander XP, free XP, and credits. And it doesn't take a lot of signals to run either. You just have to run the secondary one and you'll be perfectly fine. So makes you a lot of credits. What are your final thoughts on this ship, SAT, before we close it today?
Personally, I would like to take Pommern into PvE modes. Sometimes the tier 9 for a randoms meta is not very forgiving for the Pommern, but in PvE, it is totally in its element. Secondaries going off, you have Hydro just in case people throw torps at you. You've got pretty good guns that can easily land broadsides,
Mm-hmm.
and you even got a torpedo so you can get close to the enemy no problem.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not only just PvE, but also during tier 9 brawls. Uh, so whenever there's tier 9 brawls, Pommern is amazing for like 1v1, 2v2, 3v3, just because it is allowed to get close. It can do a lot of damage with both secondaries and guns, and you're really hard to kill. So you can even get the torpedoes off in trade. Worst comes to worst. And on top of all that, it's relatively easy to play, and can double as a good German captain retrainer, or just on top of your credit earning potential. So yeah, Pommern, pretty good ship, on the fun side to play. Uh, uh, Randoms is harder to recommend, but as I said, PvE, brawls, take Pommern any day, you'll be satisfied.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much for that, SAT, and thank you for your time today. We do greatly appreciate it. But thank you guys all for watching. If you have any questions or concerns, let us know in the comments down below. Also, all of these ships, I do stream them on my Twitch channel, which is twitch.tv/overlordbo. So make sure you guys follow over there and all of my other socials. I do greatly appreciate you guys watching these videos and for all your comments. I do take inspiration from your guys' suggestions and from your guys' comments. So it does mean a lot. Thank you so much for that. And I will see you all in the next video. Deuces.